so. Amen. Amen. Passage of scripture on the book of Hebrews, and you know why makes the devil crazy. Anything makes him crazy makes me happy. Hallelujah. Hebrews chapter 11, you could probably almost quote this, but we read it for his benefit. Hebrews 11 and verse 17. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. And he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, according that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. And by faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshipped, leaning upon the top of his staff. Amen. Here's the deal. You know, I've been reading my Bible for 43 years. And it's true, Sister Debbie. Sometimes you go across something that you've read many times and go, what? When did they put that in there? Man, it's like something comes alive to you. Here's the other thing. I'm a little bit of a talker. Like Sister Debbie said, she was a talker. Well, I am too. And so I may take you on a rabbit trail in my sermon, but I'll get you going. This has no rabbit trails. Everything in here is valuable. It's all important. And it's in here on purpose. There's purpose to it. Because of everything that Jesus had said or done would have been written in a book. The world couldn't contain the book. So it's not all in here. So that means only the really important stuff is here. And so if it's in here, there's reason behind it. And it's up to us to find the reason. It's like mining for gold. I've never mined for gold, but I've been to Bakersville, North Carolina, up at Spruce Pine, where they have the gem mines, and you pay $5 for a bucket of dirt. Really? They must see you coming. And so for this, they give you this bucket of dirt and this box with a screen bottom in it. And you go over to this place where there's rushing water. And so, what is it?
A trough.
Yeah, like a trough. And there's water rushing down through it. And you take a scoop of that dirt, and it has rocks in it. Supposedly there could be diamonds in there. That's why you pay $5. There could be, yeah, like they're going to put a diamond in there. You're going to cost $5. And you scoop it out, and the rushing water dissolves the dirt and leaves these rocks. Some of them are worthless, but some are valuable. And so when we were there, we got a lot of rubies and sapphires and different things like that. They weren't polished, they weren't cut. I don't think they're even valuable, probably, but whatever.
Not until they're cut and polished.
Not until they're cut and polished, that's true. But it's amazing how competitive you can get over a bucket of dirt. And you want to look really close to make sure you don't miss anything, except you don't want your husband to get the next scoop, because the next scoop could be the scoop with the really big one in it. And so you want to look really fast and get the next scoop. But you want to look close enough that you don't let valuable stones go down the trough. Let's start with this. It's full of these gems.
Yes.
And I think what happens is we read the surface. Now, I've read my Bible over and over and over and over again. You know, when I first got saved, I thought Jesus was going to come before I could read the Bible through. And I was terrified that I was going to go to heaven with a bunch of people I knew nothing about. And how embarrassing that would be to sit down at the marriage supper of the Lamb with Abraham. And what were you noted for? You know, you can't do that. You have to know. And so that first year, it's just off of heroin. That first year, I read hours and hours and hours a day. I made up my mind I was going to get it through one time before he came. And I did. And a few more times. The joke was on me. It's been 43 years. He still hasn't come yet. But this could be the year. Oh, yes, it could. I'm still looking for him this year. Amen. Amen. And so, after reading over and over again, if you're not careful, you'll look at the same highlights you read last time. You don't want to do that. You want to slow down. This is not a foot race. It's not a competition. And you want to get it. You want it to come alive to you. For me, anybody that knows me knows that if I'm going to read it and preach about it, I want to see it. I want to see the woman at the well. Then I want to get in her head. Why was it difficult for her to go to the water, to the well? Why did she go at the hottest part of the day? What was the battle that she went through to even walk away from that house? Knowing that when she returns, he may not be there, because everybody that she's ever been married to or affiliated with, they've all left her, and so maybe he's going to leave her today too. And so you need to get in her head and understand everything that's going on that is trying to keep her from getting to that well. Or if I'm going to preach about Bartimaeus, I'm going to shut my eyes, sit down in a chair. I did that just here a couple weeks ago, and preach with my eyes shut because he was blind. And so you've got to get in his head. What was it like to be blind from birth, to be in a ditch, and there's no Christian TV and no Christian radio, and there's no internet, and there's no cell phones. And so the only way you know what goes on is by word of mouth. And you wait on the side of this busy thoroughfare for people to stop by and bring you news from town. And the news is this Nazarene. And so if you're going to read it, you want to see it. You want to see it for me, like when I was a young girl in southern Indiana, my dad took us to a drive-in movie. You remember those? Mm-hmm. Did you? Okay. And you would go in an old pickup truck and with your blankets and pillows, and he would back in so that you could lay in the back of that pickup truck and eat popcorn and watch this big movie on an outside screen. Remember that? Oh, it's the best of it. Lord have mercy. And I liked it back then a lot better. I would admit. It's a much simpler time.
Yes,
and it became visual. You got involved in it. It was this larger than life screen. Okay, when you're reading, you need to see that. I can see Bartimaeus like I'm looking at that screen. I can see the woman at the well. I can see Zacchaeus shimmying up the tree. I can see Peter stepping out over the side of the boat. You want to see it? Get in their head. I can see Jonah in the belly of that fish. And he's being dissolved a little bit at a time by the acids of the whale. Amen. So you've got to get in their head. You've got to see it. You want to see it. Then you'll hold it. Then if they take this, go ahead, you can have it. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. Amen. 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 So here's the thing. If everything in here is that important, and it is, then why do I need to know some of this stuff? You know, last night, why do I need to know who's taking care of a sycamore tree? I mean, really? I mean, why do I care who watches over the olive tree or tills the field? I mean, what is up with that? Okay, it's the same way here. Why do I need to know that when Jacob's dying, I get it, that when Jacob's dying, he worships. I get that. But why do I need to know he's leaning on his staff? Why is that important? I mean, really, what's up with that? What is the significance that, he's dying. And he worships God as he's dying. Why do I need to know he's leaning on his staff as he worships when he's dying? So I did a little research, went back through some Bible history, and here's what I found out. I found out that this staff that Jacob is leaning on, you know, when I was a young girl, we hiked. My dad had a farm, about 90 acres, and it was mostly a few cornfields, but mostly it was woods. And so as kids, we would go back through the woods hiking and go back to the creek and swing on the grapevine, you know, on the side of the holler. And when it was like a mile to the back of the place. And so we would hike through those woods. And you just picked up a branch. And then that's what you walked with. But when you got done, you just left it on the ground. Because next week or tomorrow, you just picked up another one. It's just a stick. But that's not what this is. This staff that Jacob is leaning on would have been, according to the Bible historians, would have been Abraham's. They believe this is the staff that when Abraham left his idol-worshiping father and went into a land where he'd never been before, he would have been walking with this same staff. And when he went to Mount Moriah and went up to the top of Mount Moriah, because the Lord said, I want you to take your son Isaac to the top of Mount Moriah and sacrifice him to me there, he would have climbed Mount Moriah with this staff. And then when Isaac's mother, Sarah, had died, and he was grieving the loss of his mother, but the servant went and brought Rebekah to him, he would have been walking in the field with this staff. And then when Jacob stole Esau's birthright and fled to Laban's house, he would have been walking with this staff. Actually, when he was on the way to Laban's house and he laid his head on a rock and the heavens opened up and a ladder goes into the heavens and angels ascending and descending the ladder, and the Lord gave him the promise of what his entire life is going to be, he would have been walking with that staff. When he got to Laban's house, ended up with 4 wives, 12 sons, and a daughter, he would have been walking with that staff. When he left Laban with his children and all kinds of cattle, I don't know if they had rings around their neck or not. I have yet to figure that one out. But he got some kind of cows. And he would have left with those cows and those children to be reunited with Esau. He would have been walking with this staff. When he wrestled with the angel the night before he met Esau, he would have wrestled with this staff in his hand. And then when he was reunited to Esau and everything was healed, he would have been walking with this staff all through his life. Now, when his son Joseph, his favorite son, that has a dream that messes up by telling everybody and makes his brothers jealous. And so they throw him in a pit, take his coat of many colors, dip it in goat's blood, go back and tell Jacob, who is now Israel, that his favored son is dead, killed by a wild beast, evidently. He would have been leaning on this same staff. And for the years that followed, he would have been leaning on this staff. And then one day, his sons, there's a great famine in the land, and his sons come back. They've gone down into Egypt to buy corn, and they come back with the news that Joseph is yet alive. And he's in Egypt. And he's second in command. He would have been leaning on this staff. And so now his sons and this tribe, which is now the tribe of Israel, is going to go down into Egypt. Joseph is going to put them in a place called Goshen, and he's going to provide for them for the remainder of this drought and famine. And he would have walked down into Egypt to Goshen. You got it. With this staff. Now, he was 147 years old when he died. He was 130 years old when he got word that Joseph was still alive. And he lived in Egypt for 17 years. So for 17 years, God gave him a space of time to spend with his son Joseph and to meet Joseph's sons. Now, in this process of all these things that Jacob has gone through, when he's wrestled with that angel, you remember what happened? The angel touches him in the hollow of his thigh. So in the beginning, he walks with the staff just because it's been passed down. But now he's wrestled with the angel. He has a dislocated hip. And so for the remainder of his days, he's not just walking with the staff, he's leaning on the staff.
Right.
Because of this dislocated hip. It becomes what he depends upon and what he leans upon. Amen.
Right.
And he says to Esau, when he meets Esau, he brings great gifts to Esau. And Esau said, you don't need to give me presents. I don't need gifts. I'm just to see your face is enough. And he said, no, you don't understand, Esau. When I first came across this Jordan, I came with only the staff. But now I've come back across this Jordan, and I've become 2 bands of people. Meaning, look how God has blessed me. But I crossed the Jordan with the staff. I crossed back across the Jordan with this staff all through his life. At the death of Jacob, he's going to pass the staff again. And it will go, I'm assuming, to Joseph. And then it's going to go, and then it's going to go. Our history says they believe it's the same staff that is translated a rod that Moses would have held out over the Red Sea, and it would have rolled back. They believe it's the same staff that when David fought with Goliath, and he went down into the brook Elah, and he gathered stones out of the brook Elah, and he began to run up the side of the hill with his staff and with his sling. And he cut off the head of the giant. Same staff. started way back all the way down. Now, I don't have this, so I hesitate to say it. So I want you to understand this. Everything I've just told you, I read through Bible history. But this, I could not find. I'm still looking. I want to find it because I like it. I want to preach on it, and I believe it's true. But I can't promise you that. I've had two different ministers that said they read it, but that's not enough. I haven't seen it in print. But they read that this same staff that I'm preaching about, not only was it passed from generation to generation, it had notches in it. Now, I tend to believe that. Because it's how they would, don't you, Brother Turner?
Yes.
Because it's how they would remember.
Right.
And there's no journals like we have a journal and no computers.
Right.
So the way that they're going to pass it on, they have something that will remind them. And so every time, so when Abraham goes up to Mount Moriah and the Lord delivers Isaac on top of Mount Moriah, there would be a notch or a mark in that staff. And when he meets Esau, there's going to be a notch in the staff. When he wrestles with the angel, there's going to be a notch in the staff. All down through his life. When Abraham, God moves for Abraham over and over again, there's notches. When he moves for Isaac, there's notches. When he moves for Jacob, there's notches and notches and notches all the way down this staff. It's not just a stick. Right. It's the representation of the faithfulness of God to Abraham, and the faithfulness of God that was passed down to Isaac, and the faithfulness of God that was passed down to Jacob, and then all down across there is every time God moved for me. Now Jacob is blind. He doesn't know the difference between Ephraim and Manasseh because his eyes are dim. But he doesn't need his sight. He has his staff. And so he leans on that staff. I can see him doing it. He leans upon that staff. And the reason he worships is because as he leans upon the staff and his hand begins to move down the staff, it's like the story of Abraham's life, and the story of Isaac's life, and the story of Jacob's life, and everything that God has done all the way through Jacob's life. It's all of this history of the faithfulness of God, how faithful God has been to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, which means this is how faithful he's going to be to Joseph, and this is how faithful he's going to be to the tribe of Israel. Hallelujah. And so he leans upon the faithfulness of the Lord God. Hallelujah. 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 Now here's the thing. I have a staff. His name is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
He's who I lean upon. I can do that. I've not wrestled with the angel. I don't have it dislocated yet. I didn't leave my family that were idolaters to go into a land where I'd never been before. But I did wake up in a bathtub of ice water. My arm looking like a pincushion. Blood dripping off the ends of my fingers. Where they'd been shooting me full of salt water. Trying to pull me up out of a heroin overdose. And when everything they did in the house didn't work, and because they were afraid of being charged with my death, they weren't going to carry me to the hospital. They sent for someone to get my body. He was going to put me in the trunk of the car, so they told me. Transport me to the Ohio River, about 3 miles from my house in Louisville, and just wait for me to wash ashore so my parents could identify my body. But while they were making all that preparation in the kitchen, what they said was mixing up a final double dose of salt water to shoot in my veins. About 30 miles away, I have a Methodist mother that's a prayer warrior. Oh, yeah. She can get the Holy Ghost away later, but she's a major prayer warrior, my mom. And my mom had found my syringes, she found my drugs hidden away in the bottom of my pocketbook, in secret compartments. She knew what I was doing. She read the newspaper where I was busted and I was on the run and they were looking for me. I hadn't been home in a year because they were all watching my dad's farm. I was trying to stay out of a woman's prison. And so every day my mother prayed the same prayer. God, do whatever it takes to win my baby to Jesus Christ. But whatever you do, don't let her die in an overdose somewhere. And so when I'm there, and that's happening, that prayer touches the heart of God. Now here's the thing. A few years ago, Ronnie and I were coming back from my mom's, and we come back through downtown Louisville, and we're coming down Bardstown Road, and we come up to a cross street at a stoplight, and I look at the sign, and it's called Bonnie Castle. I said, you know, that's the street. He said, what do you mean? I said, I was living on Bonnie Castle when I overdosed. Haven't been here all these years. And I thought, you know, I'll go down to the house where my whole life was transformed. And then I realized I don't know what my house number was. And I don't know what side of the street I lived on. And I don't know if I had a front porch or a yard. Because I just did too many drugs. But that night when breath was leaving my body, he knew the house number.
Oh, yes, he did.
He knew what side of the street the house was.
Oh, yes, he did.
He knew if I had a front porch.
Yes.
And he knew where the bathroom was.
Oh, yes.
And so he went to that house, walked right through, you can believe me or not believe me, but I'm here.
Oh,
Right.
Walked right through the front door, went right, while they're in the kitchen doing whatever, he comes right to the bathroom and lays his hand on my heart. And it makes it beat again. And he lays his hand on my lungs. And they begin to breathe again. And he pulls me up out of that heroin overdose and gives me one chance to live. So tonight, this afternoon, I have a staff that I lean on. When the enemy says you're going to go under, I say, I've been under. And if you couldn't destroy me then, you sure can't destroy me. I have a staff that I lean on. When my daddy went to heaven, Brother Bobby will remember this, when my daddy went to heaven and I battled depression for a year, I didn't even know what depression was. I didn't even believe in depression. I don't even believe Christians should be sad. Why should we be sad? We have no reason to be sad. We're going to heaven. Yes. And so if you're not having to, listen, if you're not having to cook your breakfast in a tablespoon and hunt a vein in the top of your feet because there are none left in your arms.
Oh, Jesus.
And if they're not going to drag you out of the house in the middle of the night by kicking your door in.
Oh, Jesus.
And you're not looking over your shoulder.
Oh, no, Jesus. Oh, Lord.
You've got nothing to be sad about.
That's right.
Every morning you wake up and you can eat your cereal in a red Solo cup. I like mine in a Solo cup because I live in a motel. But any morning you can eat your cereal in a red Solo cup. Or go down to the Continental Breakfast and you look around the room and you're eating breakfast like everybody else in the room.
Yes. Yes.
You've got nothing to be sad about.
Yes. Amen. Oh,
So I just did not understand sadness because even in my difficult days, they were so much better than what I'd come out of.
yes.
And so one day I wake up and I'm sad, suffocating sad. And I don't know how I got there. I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know how to stop being sad. I tried singing songs. I tried quoting scriptures. I tried preaching my sermons. I tried everything to make me not sad. And I had no power to get out of this suffocating, drowning sadness. And so I went to my room and got down at the foot of my bed and began to cry. And I said, Jesus, don't make me go out there like this. I've never been like this before. I'm the one that's either up or getting up. I'm Little Miss Victory all the time. please don't make me go out like this. I don't want anybody to see me in this condition. You got to get me out of here. I don't know what this place is that I'm in. I don't know how I got in it. I don't know how to get out. But you've got to get me out of here. I don't want them to see me like this. I was a broken eggshell. If you were nice to me, I cried. If you were mean to me, I cried. If you looked at me, I cried. I said, don't make me, I can't preach like this. I'm not a good preacher like this. I'm not going to be able to help anybody like this. You got to come get me out of here. You got to show me what this place is and get me out of this awful place. And a voice, and I know y'all going to think I'm crazy, but a voice came in my house. It was Marshall Vaughn's wife. She lives in Royston, Georgia. It's 350 miles from my house in Kentucky. It was like an angel took her vocal cords and carried them right into my house. And I stopped crying because I could hear Sister Vaughn singing on the other end of my house in the living room. And then her voice was moving like she was walking through all the rooms of my house. And then she was coming down the hallway because her voice was getting louder. And I buried my face in the mattress and waited. And her voice
Oh, Jesus. Hallelujah.
You know, Job said, where is God, my maker, who gives me songs in the night?
Right.
And if you're in the night, he's going to come to you. He'll visit your cell. Oh, yes, he will. And so her voice, it was like she walked right through the bedroom door, and her voice filled the room, every corner of that room. And she was singing, I'm following the one who knows the way. If I'll keep my eyes on Jesus, I'll never stray. He's chosen this way before me. I'm following the one who knows the way. And I got up and washed my face. And I said, all right, Lord, if you want to teach me something, I can do this. As long as I know you're with me, we're just going to walk it out. And it was another 9 months. It was 11 months total before it ended. But just the same way I walked into it, I woke up in Marlene Austin's house, actually in her bedroom. She was sleeping in the spare room. And I woke up in Marlene's house, and the room was bright. And I woke Ronnie up and said, you need to wake up and see this. Now, my husband's been living with a crazy woman for a year, and I ain't kidding you. I mean to tell you, it was a crazy woman. And I said, you need to wake up and see this. And he said, what's wrong? I said, not one thing. It's over. The room is bright. That voice is silent. That dark cloud is gone. Somewhere somebody's touched God for me, and that thing has been working on my life. Amen. And so I've got another notch in my staff. Now I can do that all day long. Because for 43 years, every time I've been in trouble, he came to me. And so when I lean on him today, and it doesn't matter what tomorrow holds, it doesn't matter what this afternoon holds, I know that the same God that started a journey in you all the way back at the beginning, he that began the good work in you, he shall also perform that work all the way to the day of Christ Jesus. And so I can lean on how he got me started. But the truth is, I don't even have to go that far back. I can go back to where he brought me out of depression in 1999. And it was a major pivotal point in our life. It's what the ladies' retreats were birthed out of. And so I could go, I'm not going to go to all of them, but when Ronnie stepped in a small hole the last day of our camp meeting in Mount Airy, carrying his equipment, and knocked his hip out and couldn't walk and couldn't sit in a chair. And so for the next 3 months, I'd go out and preach, not very far, but just far enough. I know you're going to be mad at me when I tell you this, but if I want him healed, I have to keep moving. Because if I pull off the field, he'll never get healed. And so, or he'll always battle that sickness. And so I said, no, devil, it don't work like that. Here's what's going to happen. I'll give him a bag of potato chips and a box of cookies and a Coca-Cola. And I'll put him right beside his bed. I give him a little bed right in the living room, a little twin-size bed. And the first month, he laid in the floor. And then I went and bought a mattress. I felt bad. And he could crawl to the bathroom and he could crawl back. And then I'd go preach, not an hour, 2 hours away, so I could get home at night. And when the anointing would hit in that meeting, I'd say, now, and I'd begin to speak healing into his body. And I knew he was healed. And I'd call him on the phone on the way home. Honey, are you better? Are you better? He said, no, I'm not better. I said, are you sure? Have you tried? Have you tried to get it? Because I think you're better tonight. No, I'm not better. But 1 week, I'm coming in from my furthest trip away. I cried halfway there because I knew I was too far away to get there by night. And I was at Jeff Shiflett's, and I'm on my way home. My sister calls on the phone, and she said, how far away are you? And I said, I'm still about 3 hours. Why, what's wrong? You better hurry. I said, what's wrong with Ronnie? She said, he's on the lawnmower. So what do you mean he's on the lawnmower? He can't be on the lawnmower. What do you mean he's on the lawnmower? I can hear it. He's mowing your grass. I said, oh no. He has been flat on his back for 3 months. He had better not get on a lawnmower. You go over there right now, tell him it's an emergency, and I need to talk to him. Tell him go in the house and call my cell phone. He comes in, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, are you on a lawnmower? And he said, yeah. I said, and why would that be? You haven't even stood up for 3 months. I want to know why you are on a lawnmower. He said, because I got up this morning and I didn't have to cry.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
And then I went to test it, and I could sit in a chair. And he said, I thought, well, if I can walk and if I can sit, I might as well mow like grass.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
So I have a knife with my staff. And so here I am. God, I love you, Jesus.
Yes, amen.
Here I am, 43 years down the road. You know what? When the enemy comes against me like a flood, he's going to do that. Listen, you're not getting out of here without a battle. You're the soldiers of the cross. Don't even expect it. You're not getting out of here without a fight. But when he comes to you, you've got a staff to lean upon. Every time God's ever moved for you, every time Jesus has delivered you, every time he's ever healed you, every time he's ever brought you out of trouble, hallelujah. If he ever has, then he's going to do it again today, and he's going to do it again tomorrow, because he's the same yesterday, he's the same today, and he's the same forever. Now, my mom's house, before my mom went to heaven, she had bookcases, about 2 or 3 bookcases, 2 high bookcases, and the bookcases were packed full of photo albums. Not photos, but the whole album. And so when all of us would get together during different holidays or get-togethers or whatever, we would sit around the living room and everybody would get an album. And we would flip through those pages. And we would relive. There was me as a little girl with a bow taped on my bald head because I had no hair. And there I was, graduating from high school, and there I was, coming out of Spencer and Business College. And, you know, there's no pictures of me shooting drugs. Only good memories. That's the thing about a photo album. You get to choose what you put in it. And so she didn't have pictures of me thrown in jail. She had no pictures of me.
Thank you, Jesus.
When I came home because I took too much LSD and I couldn't reconnect with reality. And so I come home and told my parents, I've taken too much LSD and I'll come down eventually. I don't know how long it's going to take. So in the meantime, will you just don't let me hurt myself? Will you just take care of me until I come back? I'll be back. I just don't know how long it's going to take me. There were no pictures of that. No pictures of how I messed my life up. Only happy pictures. Only the great things that I've accomplished in my life. It's the great thing about a memory. You get to choose. You get to throw away the bad stuff and hold on to the good stuff. Amen. And so we would turn the pages of those photo albums and relive our life. It's like your staff. And so on those pages is how God has moved for our family and how God blessed our family and how God protected our family. And so you couldn't help but leave there being full. That's what I'm talking about. You have a staff today. And that staff is Jesus Christ. And so the devil comes for one reason. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to make you remember nothing but the bad things that have happened in your life. But listen to me. That's not up to the devil. He's not the one that gets to choose your memories. You're the one that gets to remember every time God has ever made a way for you. Every time He's delivered you. Every time He's healed you. Hallelujah. And if you spend your life dwelling on all the bad things that has happened around you, then you are very sad. And you have no joy in your life. And the truth is, if you'll throw those away, and remember, because the truth is, your good outweighs your bad. I don't care how bad your bad is been. Your good days outweigh your bad days. And we got nothing to complain about. Hallelujah. 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 And so you are the one that gets to carve the staff.
Right.
And you get to choose what you remember. I'm going to say David didn't mark the staff when he looked out the window at Bathsheba. I don't think it's in the staff. I don't think it's in the staff when he sent Uriah the Hittite out to be murdered in the forefront of the battle. But I do think it's in there. When the Lord came to him in a cave when he was running from Saul. And when he said, if I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away. But he also said, I shall be anointed with fresh oil. I think he may have marked that day in the side of his staff. You get to choose. You get to choose what you mark your life with. You get to choose what you remember. Listen, my life is, there's all kinds of things behind me that I don't want to think about. And so guess what? I don't. I only talk about what I just told you in the pulpit. We don't discuss it over the dinner table. I don't discuss it if I go to the mall. I don't discuss it when I'm having a Coca-Cola. I don't drink Coca-Cola. But if I'm having a bottle of water, I don't talk about it. We don't talk about those things that were done in darkness. There were no such things as good old days. The only good old days I've had started in 1975 when I gave my heart to Jesus Christ. That was the beginning of my good old days. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And anything that goes beyond that is only for the sake of the gospel, because there's still thousands of young girls just like me that need to know that there is life after heroin addiction. There is life after alcoholism. There is life after depression. And that life is in Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. Every time he met you in the parking lot when you didn't have the service. worship, if you're struggling to worship, it's because you're not walking with your staff. If you're struggling to worship, it's because you're looking in the wrong memory book. And you're coming in, remembering every time somebody hurt you, and every time somebody said something you didn't like, and every time they preached on something you didn't agree with, you're carrying the wrong staff. But I'm telling you, if you'll come into the if you'll come out to your boy, if you'll come into the house of the Lord, leaning on your staff, every time He's healed you, every time He's delivered you, every time He met you in the middle of the night, every time He's kept you from an accident, every time He's provided for you, every time He spoke to you out of His Word, you'll have no trouble leaning on your staff and worshiping Him. You just don't know what I've been through. You get to choose. You can choose to live in that. Or you can say, guess what, devil? You ain't my daddy. You don't get to plant those memories in my mind. I'm not filing them away. They do not exist anymore. You know, years ago, Sister Margie asked me if I'd write my testimony. Someone told her. I didn't talk about it. Somebody told her about it. And so she wanted me to tell it in my local church. And so I did. And so then she wanted me to write it down. And then she said, if you'll write it down, I'll put it in a track form. Then it became a cassette tape. Then it became a CD. Then it became a DVD. And then it's been everywhere. And so when that whole thing started, and I wrote that track of my testimony, I had to carry it to my mom. I said, is that what it was like? She said, that pretty much says it. Then I took it to Mike. Is that how you remember it? He said, that was pretty right. And the reason was, I choose not to hold on to that. The thing is, 45 years ago, 43 years ago, she died.
Hallelujah.
Right.
That's not who this is.
Yeah,
The truth is, I ain't never been strung out on drugs. But I know this girl. And I know her so well she could be my twin. But this girl, she ain't never been strung out on drugs. I ain't ever been dragged out of my house at 4 o'clock in the morning and thrown into a holding cell. I ain't ever had to run from the police. Amen. Well, I can't really say that because I did carry a gun into an airport one time on my way to revival. I'm a little careful. You gotta be careful what you say in the pulpit. So I didn't run from the police. They caught me right there. But that lifestyle, that has no power over me anymore. Because that girl died. And this new girl was resurrected. Here's the thing. You're reaching back into underneath the blood. And you're pulling things out to feel bad over.
Wow. Come on.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
And do you not think that's an offense to the Lord? That was whipped for your sickness, wore a crown of thorns for your peace, and died for those sins.
Yeah.
And yet, you want to feel bad about it. And you want to beat yourself up over it. And He wants to say, what are you doing? I paid a price that you never have to wear that robe. I paid a price that you don't have to be remembered as that. I paid a price that can be cast as far as the east is from the west, never to be remembered against you again. Why do you keep bringing that up to me? Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm telling you, it's your staff. I'm going to tell you something else, and I'm going to close. But I'm going to tell you one more thing. I don't have children. I wanted to, but we didn't have any children. But if you have children, they're watching your life. They are major watching your life. And so you're impacting their life by how you carry your staff. And so if you live your life always defeated by your mistakes, and all you remember is the times that you believe God didn't move for you, and all you remember is how the pastor preached something that hurt your feelings, or so-and-so didn't look at you right, and that's all you surround yourself with, you're passing that on to your children. Remember, you're passing your staff on. And so if I'm going to pass something, I'm going to pass it. He ain't ever done me nothing. He ain't ever done me nothing but good. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm going to pass on. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. He is crazy and loving me. I'm his favorite little girl. I'm the apple of his eye. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I made a lot of mistakes, but he washed me in his blood. He washed them all away. He gave me a brand new clean slate, and I've been running for him ever since. I don't even know what time. Stand with me, please. Oh, Jesus. Let go of every bit of it. If you've got things you're holding on to, it's keeping your spirit beat up, keeping you pulled down, stopping you from walking in victory. When Ronnie goes to singing, I want you to move out from behind that pew and come and kneel in this altar. Come stand around this altar. I want you to leave all your burdens here. I want you to leave all your problems here. I want you to leave all your difficulties here. I want you to leave your sorrow of heart here. I want you to leave all your disappointments here. Hallelujah. Because we ain't putting nothing in our staff but the miracle working power of God. We are not going to run our hand down a staff. And remember, what we believe was a time that God failed us. We're going to reach way high and remember where he got us started. And then we're going to run our hand. Oh, God. We're going to run our hand down through that staff. And we're going to feel every time, every notch in that staff, how he's worked for us and delivered us and made a way for us and brought us out with a mighty hand. Hallelujah. Then we're going to walk into this room clicking our heels together with great anticipation. Oh, hallelujah. We've come to magnify. Oh, hallelujah. How can you praise him? Because we know who he is. He's a promise keeper. Oh, yes, he is. He's a miracle worker. Oh, yes, he is. He's a light in the darkness. Oh, yes, he is. That's why we praise him. We know who he is. We know what he's going to do. We know that he's going to make a way.
I'm following the one who knows.
Come on, children. Come join me in the altar.
I'll keep my eyes on Jesus. I'll never stray.
He's chosen this way. For me and my Lord makes no mistakes. Following the one who knows the way.
I'm following the one who knows the way. I'll keep my eyes on Jesus. I'll never stray. He's chosen this way.
focusing your attention on the things that have stripped you of your joy, and you want to refocus your life. If you're in here because you just need a miracle in your life, you need to be healed, you're in a battle that is overwhelming to you, and you know the miracle worker, while he sings, if you'll come, I want to pray for you.
I'm falling